Well, shit, let's get unbarred then, baby. Trying to rip these bars off.
Welcome to Unbarred,
Uh, how you been?
man. Man, I've been great, man. It's just good vibes all together. I had my vacation last week, so I should say staycation. So it's more about like resting and just enjoying life, man. Just resting the mind, the
That's
mind
what's
and
up.
body. Yeah. Just again, just staying. Did a lot of reading. And just like couple of walks, around the hood, around the neighborhood, and just kind of like met a few people. Even doing that, it's amazing when you could just like, on your way to the coffee shop, you sit down and do a little bit of reading, and you spark like a conversation with a random person, and you find something like relatable, which I thought was dope. Um, and I remember just having a good conversation with a gentleman I met. Um, yeah, and it's interesting because the conversation was centered around mental health. I ended up passing him the link to our podcast, and he really appreciated that. Yeah, um, so I feel like even that connection was like a good thing and something like probably both of us needed. So, I think that conversation was very inspiring for both of us. Again, centered around just like wellness and just like, especially as Black men who's like just going through this human experience. Sometimes we need just that talk and that support. Yeah.
Yeah, just finding people that you relate to can be difficult, especially when we're first off when we're in our own like bubbles. Like we get into like the places that we work or the people that we see regularly. So it's like they know us, right? We're saying the same things, or we're already
Hmm.
in that same space. So it's nice to step out of that space and then still find people that you can relate to, that you have no contact with. Meeting
Yeah.
those strangers in the world reminds us that, well, for me, meeting strangers and like having that connection and talking about some deep stuff like that, it like reminds me that just because I hear about all these negative things on the news, or even like from other people, there's still like some good, or at least there's something that I feel connected to. And I love that, right? I I love when strangers, I mean, I say I love it, sometimes I don't, but for the most part, like I really do. Even if I don't like it in the moment, I appreciate it later on. Like when some random person just out of nowhere starts talking to me as if we know each other or something. It's like,
Yeah.
it's real beautiful, man.
Yeah, it is beautiful. Yeah, and when he approached, like again, I'm just minding my own business, drinking coffee, reading, um, and when I got approached, you know what? I just stopped. I accepted it. I was like, all right, let's have a conversation because I'm thinking, and I'm already thinking, and I think we talked about this before, where something might um be for me in this moment, even for both of us. So I'm like, all right, I felt the connection of someone wanting to have a conversation. So I was like, you know what? Let me accept this and allow this to happen and see where it is going. And then again, we end up speaking for almost 30 to 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's just a conversation where what I would say that I needed, and that person needed as well. And I guess like I mean we talked about this, like we all like are one in a sense, and I think is as community, whether we have our differences or not, I feel like we're like vessels to support each other in a way.
I mean, we're a social creature. Like
Mm.
we all seek it and need it. Like no one there are very few people that want to and or can just live life alone. Right? Like the- it's it's like impossible to survive by oneself
Yeah,
without any interaction with
yeah,
other people. So I mean that's why solitary confinement is such a punishment, right? Like because we
yeah,
need human interaction. So
yeah. Yeah, we're
uh,
like that's kind of like in us to have some sense of like community and interaction, engagement.
yep,
So yeah, but it
we
is
need.
times like we feel like we want space, right? And I think that's okay as well, right? There's sometimes it's like, listen, like I don't need it right now. I just want to. I'd like. I'm like I search for like alone time. There's moments where I need alone time, but then if it's too much, then too long, then it's like, all right, that could drive you crazy as well. So, but I do think like having alone time is could be healthy at times as well. But like you said, I think our in our core, we are we do want to have engagement and socialize and be in community.
Yeah, I mean everyone needs breaks, right?
Yeah.
And alone time is necessary because we have to have. So while we need each other, we need community. There's no there's no understanding ourselves if all we do is engage constantly with others.
Yeah.
That's that was one of the things that took me a long time to get over was saying no to people. Like I
Mm.
used to be such a people
Yeah, yeah.
pleaser, and I still have
Yes.
those people
Yeah.
pleasing tendencies for sure.
Yeah.
I love doing things for people uh, and making them happy, but for a long time I was doing it at the detriment of myself.
Mm.
Right, so overdoing it,
Yeah.
which is definitely a trauma response. Like as a
Mm.
kid, I like to not have to deal with whatever was going on with me. I became someone who would just like help others or always do stuff for other
Yeah.
people or always be around other people. So then I didn't have to focus on myself.
Mm.
So as I grew up, I recognized that was actually hurting me. While I was doing all this
Mm.
good for people, it was causing myself a lot of pain and
Yes.
consternation because I never figured out who I am actually, because I was
Yeah.
so focused on other people's needs that I started to make other people's needs my needs, but it was
Hmm.
not.
Not your needs.
Yeah, it wasn't me. So learning learning to say no is powerful, right? Like learning to say, "Oh, I can't do that," or "I
Hmm.
don't want to do that." Like people are afraid to tell others that they don't want
No.
to do something. Uh, but it's so relieving. Like being able to just say, "Oh, that's not something I want to do," and
Yeah.
not worry about people being upset with me or
Yeah.
not liking me anymore, uh, is so. It's like it takes a weight off
It's
my chest.
it's a yeah. I agree. I think I had. Well, I know I had that same issue. It's almost as if you're like scared to say no because these are people that you want in your life, and you. I think there's a belief or a limited belief that if you do say no or if you say no too many times they won't be they no longer want to connect with you in the same way, which is absolutely not true. It's actually when you start to like kind of honor honor your space and honor your worth and your value, people respect you more, and they value your time more. But if you're not valuing your time and you're just like all over and doing whatever people are asking you to do, and kind of like not not allowing your voice to be heard, you may lose your value, and that's when you know your own health could be a concern, like you said, like your mental health or whatever. So it's important that I know we talked about being in community, but having space to yourself at time allows you to know what you want, know who you are, know what resonates with you, and you can make decisions based on that. But if you're not having some time to yourself, you don't actually know what you want, who you are, and you allowing others people's requests to define you. So, like, yeah, I think it's just, yeah, I think almost before we even enter community is like, or enter in relationships is also important to like know who you are, because in first because you're able to um that's it, like engage in a way that is healthy for you, you
Yeah,
know.
you're able to communicate your boundaries, right? Like
Yeah.
saying no is a communication of what my boundaries are. And like
Hmm.
you said, people will respect you more or value your time more, but people will also stop being your friends. Like don't
Don't get it
like
twisted.
some yeah, don't get it twisted. Some of these motherfuckers will be like, "All right, well fuck you then." And
Exactly.
honestly, you don't want to be friends with
I
them.
really
Like you
don't.
don't want to be
Yeah.
friends. If anyone's going to say, "Oh,
You
you're
worrying
not
about
doing the
yourself.
things that I want you to do," then I'm not going to like you don't want to be friends with that person anyway.
Yeah,
And
you're absolutely correct with
yeah,
that.
like fuck them. And I don't mean like fuck them like they suck or anything. They just haven't gotten their understanding about
Yeah,
boundaries and stuff down yet. But I don't want, um, I have a bigger tolerance. So like people behave that way and I understand them. I'm now at like a understanding stage
yeah.
rather than uh, like a reactionary stage.
Mm,
But I do know that it can hurt when some people have lost friends. I know I've talked to friends
yeah,
that have been like, yeah, I was just trying to like communicate what it was that I liked, and all of a sudden this person like just stopped being my friend,
yeah,
and they're hurt by it, and it hurts to lose friends, right? I definitely
yeah,
understand that. I guarantee you though, it hurts less than like spending 15 more years in a toxic relationship with a
yeah.
friend that like takes advantage of us and doesn't
Exactly.
reciprocate, because reciprocation in a relationship is number one, and it doesn't have to be like a 50-50 reciprocation. I don't need a 50-50.
Yeah,
I need different levels from different people. But I know that if someone isn't giving back and you need them to give back, don't be friends with them or
yeah.
spend less energy on them, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's true because people looking for like 50-50. Like also they're looking for their friends to respond in the same manner they would respond. And that's not
Mhm.
realistic. Like people
Mhm.
respond in different ways and they have their own personalities and the things
Mhm.
they want to do. If you're demanding your friends to respond in a manner that you would respond, I think that's you're already like I think those expectations are not good because when people don't respond in the way that you would envision them to respond in the way you would respond, then you're like disappointed. But if you're just kind of accepting friendships and accepting what that person offers in that friendship, those expectations are not there and you just kind of enjoy the relationship for what it is instead of like having um these expectations and it could create like suffering, unnecessary suffering where oh this person didn't do this and he didn't do my birthday and
Yeah,
this and that is
resentment.
like yeah you get resentment and that person may be great in other things and have skills and value and he offers him or her may offer so much other things but you're so caught up in what they may lack instead of like like kind of like thinking about what their value and what they do offer, because everybody's different. We, you know, diversity is the good thing. Imagine if we just all offer the same thing as people and as friends. It just doesn't work like that. So let's think about like the positive attributes from our friends and like people around us. And some people may be weird with certain things, and just like, okay, that's just how that person is, and it's just like, okay, but I love or like that person for these things, and they're smart and they're able to. Let's look at those things as well.
I have my closest friend. Him and I would fight a lot. And it happens a lot with certain types of people. It doesn't happen with
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people, but it happens with certain types of people,
Mm-hmm.
because I respond how I'm going to respond to things,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, I'm very authentic and genuine
Mm-hmm.
with my responses to things. And th- because of that, it can seem people will misread my responses, or people have expectations, like you're pointing out, right? Like,
Yeah.
people expect people to some people expect like coddling or like catering, right? People expect
Yeah.
accommodations or some sort of catering to who they are, because people have gotten that.
Yeah.
And that is not who I am, but it doesn't mean I don't love that person
Yeah.
nonetheless. And I've watched as this friend has like gone from someone who's so reactionary towards what I'm doing, towards me just being me, and has become someone who is much more aware and understanding and
Mm.
sees what's going on, right? So what I'm saying is I'm watching someone become what you're talking about, right? Like, no longer just expecting people to respond or to behave in a certain way, but
Mm.
accepting people for who they are
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
recognizing their value.
Yeah.
It is, I've always been that person. I've
Mm.
always recognized the value of someone regardless of what they've done
Yeah.
or how they behave or anything. So it's always been like an easy thing for me to do,
Yeah.
but I recognize that it's a difficult thing.
Yeah.
And I say that because I've watched this friend just grow into someone that can do that. And
Mm.
honestly, he's done it all on his own, right? He hasn't like gone to
Yeah.
therapy or
Yeah.
I mean, he gets advice from someone like me who's really good at this stuff, and also
Yeah.
has like a good group of friends that are diverse and behave in all these different ways. But nonetheless, like, he has grown into someone who can do what you're talking about and just not be offended or not hold so many expectations on others.
Yeah.
And often they're like unrealistic expectations, because
Yeah.
typically the person having those expectations are nowhere near meeting their own expectations. So
Exactly.
like, uh,
Yeah.
uh, it's interesting to watch someone grow and be able to like develop these skills also late in life. He's my age. We're like in our
Yeah.
30s, late 30s too. Like, I'm 36.
Yeah.
So in his late 30s, he's developing these new skills, and it's
But
inspiring.
but this reminds me of what you said last week about like navigating through chaos, and you've been able to do that because life has almost forced you to be able to do that. But sometimes we we're having these expectations in relationships, and we're not there. Your friends are not meeting them those expectations, so you're constantly battling your friends, or you're upset. You're almost closet upset because you're upset at what happened, and you just go home. It's like, this guy or this she does this. um but seeing a pattern of that may eventually help you to realize that, you know, your expectations, or your viewpoint, or your belief in how people should react and behave is only causing you pain and those issues. So eventually you just let go. And that's how growth happens. Help growth happens from like seeing things, struggling through them, and then shifting like your beliefs and like just evolving, and you can have a better experience in life. And I think that's the goal, having just better experiences.
I mean, I hope it happens, but it doesn't just happen, right? Like the reason that I'm commenting on this friend doing it is because it doesn't just happen, right? Like
Mm.
we're talking about it because it's wild that like
Mhm.
in late 30s someone is developing these kinds of skills, uh, because people go their whole lives, like most people will go their whole lives not having that skill, right? Like harboring some sort of resentment towards the way someone that they consider a friend behaves when that person is only behaving as themselves. So I
Yeah.
hope, I mean, I hope, but I will say that what I can say, I can't tell people to be better or that they should, I don't want to say be better, but should do what we're saying. I will say that it does lead to a more, um, it leads to more rich relationships. So
Mhm.
when we can give people the grace, or
Mhm.
not hold too many expectations. And I think this is just true for everything, right? I think a lot of people just put expectations on things in general, and
Mhm.
then when things don't work out the way that they expected, it can cause that resentment or consternation
Mhm.
or um, confusion, or like it causes a lot of things. But because I I've had to navigate chaos
Mhm.
constantly, I've developed that skill of like not putting any expectations on things, so that way when whatever happens, I'm at least not going to be mad that it didn't meet my expectations, right?
Yeah.
Like at the least, that's I'm not going to have that extra resentment.
Mhm.
At the best, I'm going to have a great experience no matter what, because it's a distinct new experience because I didn't have
Exactly.
those expectations.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And and what you're saying is like, I think you're seeing like the good within that experience or within that friendship, rather than like focusing on like the conflict or the contrast that may have happened. So I think within any relationship or with any friendship, like there are some good things that help you to grow as a person. Or and usually the person you have the most issues with is like the person that's helping you grow the most. Like the person that you always fighting with,
Yep.
the person who's always like offering something that is in contrast to your belief is the one that's helping you grow, because they're actually offering you something and they're not yesing you to death and just like agreeing with you. They're like, no, there's another perspective, and you're fighting that because it's like it's forcing you to look at another way, and it's like, okay, it's actually a maybe it's a good thing because now it's opening your mind up a little bit and
I'll
allowing you to evolve. Yeah.
It's even more than that. Oftentimes when we're so upset or something about someone else bothers us, it's because it's the thing that bothers us about them is something that we do, right? Like a lot of times we're
Yeah.
so mad about people doing something, and a lot of times people dislike someone and then they like dig deeper, and that other people be like, I don't know why you dislike them. You guys are the same. And
Same, yeah, yeah.
it
It's a
always happens.
it's it's almost like it's a mirror of who you are. So it's like
Yeah.
so it's actually something that you don't like about yourself,
Yep.
and seeing it play out is like, damn, I hate this. And
Yeah.
it's actually something that who you are a lot of times. I think we spoke about this too, like in relationship, the triggers are often something
Yeah.
that within us, like
Yep.
it's triggering you because this is sometimes it is
Yep.
us, and it's
I
like, damn, I need to switch up. So you're basically telling yourself, so
yeah.
which is a good thing. It helps you grow because these interactions reveal something that you need to work through or to
Yep.
like grow
Thank
out
you
of.
for
Yeah.
triggering me. That's
Yes.
like so many fights that Stephanie and I have. It's like I get mad that she does something, and then later on I'll be like, God damn it, I do that same thing every time. Like I now I just like I know that I'm gonna get mad at her. This is kind of like petty. I know that I'm
Yeah.
gonna get mad at her for this thing. So I just start being better about it so that I can still be
Yeah.
mad at her when she does it
Exactly.
and not hate myself. But
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. It also helps us to, like you said, offer grace to people. It's like, all right, like, I ain't even gonna stress this because I ain't perfect. I be doing some shit too.
yeah. I'm I'm that's I mean that's probably why I love everyone because I know that I do fucked up things. So I'm not really mad at other people who are doing fucked
Yeah.
up shit. But that's back to your point where like, yeah, I get you. We should figure out who we are before we get into relationships. But often we need relationships to help us figure out who we are,
Yeah.
right? Like we need
Yeah.
that because I can't see myself. Just like I can't smell my own BO, right? Like you don't know
Yeah.
you stink until you're around other people.
Yeah.
I don't know what I look like until someone else is like, "Here's a mirror.
Oh
Stop doing
yeah.
that shit."
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
uh,
So we need those relationships to reveal who we are and to like, um, so offer just like a perspective, comparative like perspective, um, and then we could decide actually who we want to be from looking at people and viewing like having these experiences. We could determine like, yeah, you know what, being like this or moving like this doesn't result in the outcomes I like, and that's through relationships, having these interactions, and then that helps you to change and shift. um I mean, you could say, I know people who say I'm a realist and this is me, but after a while of like the same experiences that you really don't like, we all evolve. Like I mean, all we all try to want to be in a place where we have better experiences in life. You know, for the most part, I think most people don't want to go through like headaches of like so much conflict where we don't feel like that thing, we don't feel good as far as like the people around us.
yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. A lot of
Mm.
people don't change. A lot of people don't leave people that are toxic for them. A lot of people
Yeah.
uh, are trapped because they are comfortable or because it's hard. It's very hard to recognize the things that we're talking about. And then
Hmm.
even harder than that is to once I recognize them, have the tools and the capacity to change them, right? Like, so there's a
Mm.
lot of steps, and all of those steps are difficult. It's not easy recognizing, it's not easy understanding, and it's not easy changing. And then on top of that, it's not easy continuing down that road because
Yeah.
so many things, so many tangible and intangible things in the world and in our lives and in our minds uh, keep us locked
Track
down, keep us
left and like,
barred, right? Like that's what
yeah,
this
you
is
cover.
about. Like,
Oh yeah, that's why we're trying to create a path to being unbarred.
exactly. Uh,
Shameless plug. And but
that's not a
you
shameless plug. We're on the Unbarred podcast.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Listen, it's all about being on board. So, and yeah, you're right, because I think like, yeah, you're right. It's not that easy to change, and you have to have a level of awareness about who you are, and you have to be like people said, I'm doing the work, and like I think a lot of people who are into like self awareness, mental health, like I'm doing the work, brother. It's meaning that like there's this like deeper search for being more conscious of like your world experience, and not like settling for patterns that are just like not beneficial to you moving forward as a person. So I think there is this like, again, doing the work, but if you're not doing the work on yourself, it's hard to like get that greater awareness of how you interact with just within community. But yeah.
Yeah, that's I struggle. So you know me, man. I like fight against any construct. And it's not that I'm fighting against it, it's that I just want to always point out that we often focus on one way of doing something, and then we say things like, I'm doing the work, which is great. I think
Yeah.
people should do the work.
Yeah.
I also think people should vote, or people should plan their lives out. I
Yeah.
also think people shouldn't vote, and
Yeah.
people shouldn't plan their lives out, and people shouldn't do the work, right? Like, I think that there's other ways of doing things, and we're focused on the ways that we know about.
Yeah.
But like, I've gotten to where I'm at, not because I've gone by whatever the world is saying that's how you do things.
Yeah.
Like, you pointed something out to me that I've always, or lately I've had an inkling on, but wasn't sure. But you said to me that you thought that I was reading, and I think I said this before, but you said you thought I was reading the same books that other people are reading to
Mhm.
like to grow and to
Mhm.
progress and to
Mhm.
evolve. And I don't fucking read. So, but I'm out here
That's
like those
hilarious.
things. Those things are just part of my life, right? Like, I'm not going out of my way to do the work. I'm not going out and like finding. I don't even actually know what it means to do the
Do
work,
the work.
honestly.
Yeah.
But I know that the end result is
Is it
similar to stuff
similar?
that I'm heading, right? Like, we're heading to the same direction. People are doing it differently.
Yeah.
They're doing the work. I'm just living my life, right? And
Yeah. Yeah. I don't
I'm
think there's a definition or like you could define what's doing the work is. It's like everybody has their own path of like their journey in like developing themselves and just creating awareness of who they are. And I don't think there's necessarily like a strict like, oh, you got to do this and that and that. I think kind of life we got kind of like have our own. People say we have our own guidance system.
Mhm.
We have our own GPS within us, and it leads us there somehow based on our personalities and based on what we would accept. Like, there's certain avenues that it's not gonna resonate with me. So there's only certain ways for me to navigate us to whatever path I need to go. And it's based on who we are. And I'm pretty sure um you have your own system and how you able to do that based on who you are as a person. So I just feel like we all can get there somewhere somehow. Or
For sure. I that's what I'm saying. We all can
yeah.
get there somehow, and we can all get there in our own way. But I do think when people like our zeitgeist right now is saying, "Oh, to do the work, here are the things that you do." Right? Like, you
Yeah.
have to have an active focus on doing it, right? And I'm not saying
Yeah.
that's a wrong way to do it. I think that is absolutely a correct way to do it, right? Like, understand that there's something missing, and then build things around you so that you can find that thing. That absolutely makes sense.
Mhm.
There's also people in the world that don't operate that way. That
Mhm.
um, So, like, I'll give you an example. As a kid, I had always wanted to. Uh, I actually always wanted to have a pet that I didn't have to keep on a leash, that always walked alongside me because of a cartoon that I saw. Who
I
This dude
love
had a
that.
tiger, and he would walk around with this Bengal tiger, fucking kicking it. Then I always like wanted to be a consultant. Like, I always wanted to like teach other people things,
Mhm.
and I always wanted to live in Chicago. Those are like a few things as a kid that I wanted, but
That's
I never
crazy.
like
I
I
like
never
that.
sat down and said, "All right, well, let's draw out this plan so that we can get there." Right? I think
Mhm.
that is a way of doing things, and it makes sense to do things that way. For me, life does things, right? Like I just live my life, and whatever I'm putting out into the world, it tends to get me there or comes to me. And I don't think that everyone can live their life that way. But I think when people are saying, "Oh, I'm doing the work," what they mean is I'm actively engaging in a way that I'm looking for the things that I need. And that's
Mhm.
again 100% a great way to do it.
Good. But that's not like the
That's not
only
the
way.
only way, right? Like, and that's true for just about everything, right? There's not only one way to do things. And what I'm always trying to instill people, like I go do these trainings and people are always asking these questions about like, how do you do this? And my answer is always like this lofty, like, oh, I can show you a way to do it, but don't take my word for it. My goal is to give you the skills to figure out how to do it
Yeah.
for yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm this world is so malleable. Like we can shape this world however we want. Every human
Hmm.
on this planet is like their own little god, because
Hmm.
we can put things into the world and then we can mold it and shape it based on,
Creators.
yes, we're all creators.
Yeah.
And to be able to tap into that, we have to know that whatever someone is telling us is the way to do it is not the only way to do
Only
it.
way, exactly. I mean, you're right. We could like be very like conscious of like, oh, you know what? I'm doing the work. I'm gonna do this and that, and I'm gonna tap into that. I think some people have the ability to be a little bit more intuitive for whatever reasons. Maybe because how they grew up, um, they're able to find that voice within us that kind of guides them, and they're just like instinctive in making decisions that just like, you know what, I'm just gonna do this. They don't like allow a lot of like background noise or a lot of other people to kind of influence them. And I think that's like you said, I think that's I mean, in that sense, their intuition is doing the work. Is just like just allowing them. They just listening to what they feel resonates with them and moving forward. And I'm thinking like maybe some people are not as trustworthy with their intuition and their instincts, and they may need a little bit more guidance from um yeah, just a little more guide. They may need more guidance from just doing reading or just whatever they need to do to kind of like get them to move in the path or towards the path they want to move towards. So, I, like you said, there's no definitive way. Just kind of go with like what resonates with you, what makes you feel good, and what kind of like if you're seeing good outcomes, I think that's a good sign. I would say that's a good sign. And then you may become even more intuitive as you go through your journey. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah. And if you don't, just have good friends, right? Like I don't think I I treat the world like I don't know, what would it be? Like a presidency? Like having a cabinet, right? Like I know other people that are good at a bunch of shit that I'm not good at. That
Hmm.
way I don't have to like, it's important to have our own internal compass for sure. It's also important to have, as we started talking about, have a good community around,
Unity.
right? Not people who only take from you, but people who fill your cup up too.
Yeah.
People who don't only, they're not just, because you can have people. So first you'll have those people that only take, they take, and then they
Yeah.
get mad when you're like, these are my boundaries. No, but there's also people on the other end that like constantly give and just say
Yeah.
yes, and those are also not healthy, because if you're only getting told yes and you're only getting told how great you are, or if people aren't being genuine with you and just telling you like, hey, maybe you don't want to do that, or
Yeah.
hey, you should definitely not do that, or I like it, but here's some suggestions, right? Like people
Yeah.
who actually engage in a meaningful way is so important because again, this world is big. And when I say world, don't be confused. Don't confuse Earth with world. Like the
Mm,
world is just this weird thing that humans have made up, right? The
yeah.
world is us interacting and creating whatever we want to, whatever the thing that we are doing is. And then we have the planet Earth. The world is massive, right? It's infinite, honestly, because now the
Mhm.
world includes the internet, right? And soon we're going to
Oh,
be like in VR or in XR or whatever they're
oh
calling
my
it. Like
God. Yeah.
the world is like every individual's mind and what they can
Mm,
put into the world, right? Like
yeah.
Elon Musk is going to get us off this planet soon.
The
So,
world, the AI is like the world
yeah,
is within AI now. I had a
bro,
conversation with AI and I'm like, what am I doing? I
and
had a
ask,
literal, yeah, I'm learning things and it explained, I was that chat, I
oh,
forgot
Chat
whatever you,
GPT?
yeah, I
Yo,
had I'm like thinking about the business model and it's like, I put a few thoughts and it came back at me. Then I challenged it and it expanded the conversation. But
yeah,
it's just like,
it's dope, right?
it's dope.
Yo, I
And
was talking to Chat GPT and it said
yeah,
something to me. It gave me like a response. And then at the end of it, it just bust out a Jay-Z quote to me
yeah,
unsolicitedly, bro.
unsolicited.
Like we were just talking about something. I don't even remember what it was. I love talking to it too. It helps me
Yeah,
like craft my ideas so much better.
it
I'll be
busts out
like,
a Jay
what do you
Z
think of
quote.
it, bro? It was insane. I need to like find it because I was like, what the fuck are you talking about?
And even when I was talking to it, I was like, this is something I would say. And it was like, it almost makes it like, is it like, I don't know. It's kind of crazy. I think it gets the subtleness of like who you are based on words you choose when you
Oh yeah.
interact. So it's almost like, oh, he's gonna like this type of.
Yep.
Let me throw this at him. And I
Yep.
think over time, it kind of that it kind of read who I am based on like what word choices I
It
use. So imagine them using a Jay Z line. Probably you listen to Jay Z, you might have just
I don't
used
even listen to Jay-Z.
oh, so I don't know.
I don't even like Jay-Z.
I don't
Oh,
know.
you know what? I would think I was talking to it about Unbarred and I said I can't remember. Oh, because I was just thinking about how dope of a name we came up with.
Oh, yo.
And I was like, how many entendres is Unbarred?
Oh yeah, I read that in the Google Doc. Like, yeah, you could do so much with just that alone. Is crazy.
Yeah.
That's the dopest name for me, for us, and what we're
Yeah.
planning to do is crazy. I love it.
Yeah. I agree. But yeah, the
So
the the conversations that I have with it, which are a lot around different types of. Today, I asked it. I was thinking about confidence and arrogance, and I just said, "This is a thing that I thought up. Is the difference between confidence and arrogance is entitlement, or was it entitlement?
yeah,
So, like people who are arrogant just think that they deserve people to treat them a certain way.
yeah,
But people who
yeah,
are confident tend to be people who who understand that they're good at something, but don't think that they're better than others, and don't think that they just deserve to be treated a certain way.
hmm hmm yeah, and also probably just grateful in knowing their talent, right,
Yeah,
and their gift that they can offer the world,
yeah,
and I just want to give it out. I guess that seems
yeah.
like confidence.
So when it responded to me, it was it was insanely insightful. It was like, yeah, your statement makes sense. What did I say? Yeah. The difference between arrogance and confidence is entitlement offers an intriguing angle to dissect the two closely related yet distinct attributes of human behavior. Then it goes into like a little bit of a paragraph. And so then I'm like having this discussion with it about uh about what it means and about the differences and like just an in-depth exploration. And then I was like, is anybody studying this? Like, I think I came up with something that's distinct. So I want to know if you know if anyone's out
Any
here
studies?
researching this. He's like, no, I don't think so. I think you've got a good concept. You should
Oh,
look
what?
into the field and like and dive deeper. And I was like, this is wild, man.
Yeah, he's like, am I here talking to myself? Is this
Yeah.
like, is this? It's like you start looking around. It's like, am I just really talking to
Yo,
the
it's
AI?
so helpful, man. I think this machine learning in the state that it's in now, it could progress and become something much more. But in the
Oh
state it is
yeah.
now, I mean, it obviously will progress and become something more. But in the state it is now, this is a great tool if you know how to use it, right? Like it's a perfect tool for someone like me because I think about things so macro levelly and so micro levelly, but often can't portray it as well as people need for them to understand what I'm trying to say. So like typing in the thoughts that I'm having and having it spit back out information that I don't like, it's putting together information for me that I'm like having a hard time putting together. And then
Yeah.
that helps me like craft my ideas better. And I love it, man. I think it's such a good tool.
Oh, so good tool.
And people need to learn. I don't want to say people need to learn, but like it's not going anywhere. So if people aren't learning how to cope with or use or work with it, then they're going to get left behind.
Yeah, it's gonna be. Yeah, no, you have to. And also, it's not as simple as just like entering some nonsense and you get a whole thing. Like you said, you almost have to work through it a little to tailor the message that you want or the ideas you want.
Yeah.
To actually like to make it happen. It's not as because I had to like even when I was trying to get some like just more ideas and thoughts along our business, it's almost helping you kind of dig deeper into like what you mean. It's like, nah,
Yeah.
you're not getting it. Like, I don't like that word. Like, come on. And you digging, and then you dig more, and then you kind of see exactly
It's like what we
the
were just talking
creation you
about
want.
with relationships, right? Like
Yeah.
you're seeing yourself, like you're pointing out like, oh, you're not getting it. It's like, it's a fucking computer. What do you mean it's not getting it? You're not getting it. You're not saying what you actually mean. So keep
you
going.
put this in.
Yeah.
Yeah, you put this in. You're the creator. I'm just like helping you like process
Yeah.
what you're trying to say. You're still
Yeah.
ultimately the creator,
Yeah.
So even when people say like AI, maybe AI is just like doing everything, I don't think it's necessarily so,
It's
because I
not,
think
bro.
yeah.
You gotta be able to like speak. You gotta be able to converse. You gotta be able to communicate. And like without that, it's a useless tool, honestly.
Exactly.
If you're not communicating, it's just gonna spit back out garbage that you're spitting into it. So
exactly. So there's like a thing with AI and music. So there's people who've been using like Drake and trying to get Drake songs using AI, and it's this. All right, it sounds like Drake, but this is not. This is missing something. So even with the technology, you got to be able to dig a little deeper within you to kind of get it to kind of be what you want. But there's been individuals that did a song and it's like, oh, this sounds just like, oh, this is it. But again, is even with that, you think it will be everybody be able to get the same type of reaction as far as using AI. But again, is you have to be able to kind of like put more into it to get it to like resonate with people in the way you want to resonate. Yeah.
it still takes soul. There's still like
You got to throw the soul in there.
there's still something missing. And like
Yeah.
the people who have a problem with it, or the people that don't, I'm not going to go down that. We're going down a long road. I don't want to get into the
you want to get like AI
Oh, I'm down to. I don't give a fuck. I'll join that conversation.
You down with the AI like the AI haters, I guess?
Let them. I'd love to talk to any of them. I just didn't want to get started at 50 minutes minutes, and then
Okay, I
we
think
could have a whole episode about this shit. So
yeah,
let's.
so I
I
had to,
think we had a good episode. I think
yeah.
like our point about needing community and about understanding our boundaries and being able to recognize others and see them for who they are and allowing them to
Mm.
communicate their way is really important.